Today we're going to talk about how to find the right hairstylist for you. Specifically, we're going to be talking about finding a hairstylist when you have fine, thin hair, because that is something I hear from a lot of my followers, that they really struggle to find someone like me who can understand their hair type. And as someone with my hair type who had to find a hairstylist of my own to do my hair, I understand the struggle. I've had to replace my own hairstylist 3 times over the years because I work alone, so I don't have any coworkers or colleagues to turn to that I trust with my hair, so I have to go out and find a hairstylist for myself as well. So I do understand the struggle. When I'm looking for a new hairstylist, one of the first things I'm going to do is to check their social media. This is just because I want to get a feel for who they are, get their vibe. Is it someone that I feel like I'm going to be comfortable sitting in their chair? The more comfortable you are sitting in that person's chair, the more likely you guys are going to be able to communicate freely and openly. So you want to make sure you're going to be comfortable. Now, someone's social media is not going to make or break whether I choose to go to them or not. Simply because I know for myself, my social media for my hairstyling business is deplorable, which is hilarious because I'm obviously big into social media and I love social media, but my hair salon business, my personal hairstyling business was built before social media was a big deal and before it was something that hairstylists really used, and I'm not really building that business anymore. I'm just maintaining it. I have a lot of loyal customers that have been my clients for well over a decade. I rarely take new clients, so I'm not really soliciting for new business. So I really don't put a lot of time and effort into my social media because it's just more worth it for me to put my effort into this social media here for you guys to grow my online community instead of my physical salon community. So you never know why a stylist is not really putting themselves out there on their social media. However, I do have a social media presence, my DIY hair school presence, where people can go and get a feel for who I am and how I'm going to work with their hair, even though it's not my salon social media where I am going to showcase my work. But I never want to tell someone that just because someone's social media sucks doesn't mean that they're going to be a sucky hairstylist or have bad personality. It's just a really great place to start if you have absolutely no other way to determine who this person is that you're going to sit down with. Their social media can tell you a lot about who they are. A great way to find a hairstylist that is going to work for you is to find people with your hair type that you love their hair and ask them who does their hair. This is how a lot of my clients find me. I do specialize in thinner hair, but I also mainly specialize in blonde. And I have a lot of clients out there in the world with beautiful blonde hair. They get asked who does their hair, and that's how I get a new client, because people want to know who gave them their beautiful blonde hair. So if you see someone out and about at your kids' school or daycare or shopping and they have thin, fine hair that has the most amazing haircut of your dreams, don't be afraid to ask them who does their hair. You might be surprised that it's someone local to you, and that would be a great person to give a try. Once you have narrowed it down to who you're going to try, you're going to make an appointment. Now, I suggest setting up a consultation to start. Less pressure. You're not necessarily going in there to feel like you need to get a haircut, because there's nothing worse than sitting down for a haircut, talking to the person, and then not wanting them to cut your hair. And that feels really awkward to say, you know what, I actually don't want this haircut today. So if you just book yourself a consultation, there is no expectation of actually getting your hair done that day. A lot of hairstylists do consultations for free. Some might have a fee, but most of the time if they do have a fee, it gets applied to the cost of your appointment. So that's something to consider, but most stylists will do a free consultation for a new client as long as it's not a really long, extensive consultation, and it really shouldn't need to be, especially if it's just for a haircut. So now, don't be afraid to ask your stylist questions. They shouldn't be offended by this, and honestly, if they are bothered by you asking questions, then that's a red flag to me, and they are probably not the hairstylist for you anyways. They should not be so arrogant to think that you might not have any questions about how they're going to work with your hair or concerns. Now, of course, you don't want to be an overbearing client who tells them how to do their job. That's a completely different thing altogether, but wanting to know if they work with your hair type often is a very reasonable question and one that you should absolutely ask. Then I would go ahead and tell them what I'm looking for with my haircut. That you're wanting more body, that you're wanting more fullness, that you're wanting more shape when you style your hair, Whatever it is that you're wanting, you want to explain that to them as opposed to giving them a specific haircut you want. I do have people ask me a lot, what is your haircut? So I can tell my hairstylist to do that. And I do discourage you from bringing a specific haircut to a hairstylist and saying, I want this one. Because while that specific haircut might be perfect for my hair, it might not be the perfect haircut for your hair. And you really should find a hairstylist who can figure out how to create the perfect haircut for your hair, giving you everything you want. So expressing everything you want to that hairstylist is more important than expressing what haircut you want, because you don't actually probably know what haircut you want. All you know is you want your hair to have fullness and body and movement like mine, not necessarily that it's cut exactly the same, as long as you achieve the same results. So once you've explained what you want for your haircut, your hairstylist should be able to reiterate that to you and explain to you how they're going to achieve that in your hair. And also make sure that you understand realistic expectations. Of course, they can create fullness, but it's going to be fullness that is going to look like this and is going to require these steps to enhance that fullness, because we all know our hair is not necessarily going to just be full on its own just because we got the right haircut. If you have a hairstylist that straight up says, no, you can't have any of those things, all you can have is a straight haircut with no layers because your hair is too thin, red flag, don't get your haircut. Because they're never going to do what you want. They're just going to cut your hair in a very basic way that you're going to be very unhappy with. And if you do try and push them to give you layers or do face framing layers or try to show them a video of my haircut and say, do this, if they're not confident in how to do that in your hair, probably not going to go well. So you want to go to somebody that feels like they can create that without you having to tell them how, not somebody who is going to tell you that you can't have what you want. Because honestly, every hair type can have things like layers and movement and texture that is enhanced with styling. It's obviously going to look different for every hair type and not be quite as much movement or volume for some hair types as others. But to say that someone can only have a blunt haircut or has to cut their hair short for it to look good is just not a fair statement, and is not true at all of someone who has a creative mind and is a high-end precision cutting hairstylist who can cut your hair to suit your actual hair's needs, as opposed to really not understanding different hair's needs, and so therefore just not knowing what to do with it and wanting to keep it simple. Now, I do say high-end precision cutting hairstylist. Don't get too caught up on labels. A lot of salons will label their stylists things like master stylist and junior stylist and precision cutting stylist and god of the stylist. I don't know. They have all kinds of labels. I have worked in salons where there was junior stylists who were going to give you a much better, amazing haircut, highlights, everything than some of the master stylists in that salon, because they were simply just better at hair. And the only reason the master stylists were the master stylists is because they'd been doing it longer, but that didn't necessarily mean they were better. So don't get too caught up in labels. Care more about the conversation between you and the stylist, the connection between you and stylist, all of those types of things. That is going to make a bigger difference than what their label is in the salon. If they are a brand new apprentice stylist, but you feel like they understand your hair, give them a try, because maybe they really, really do. Maybe they've had a lot of experience with your hair type and they know exactly what to do with it. It can obviously help if you go to a hairstylist that has a similar hair type to you. I do understand my clients with fine, thin hair very well because I have that hair type myself. However, my hairstylist has crazy thick curly hair and she still understands my hair type very, very well. One other tip that I like to stick to when it comes to my haircuts, I like to go to somebody who only cuts hair. Someone who specializes in hair cutting. Now, again, you don't have to do this. This is not a hard rule. But for me, finding someone who specializes in just cutting, it's just more likely that they're going to have done more in-depth professional education on hair cutting, because that is the focus of their career. Some stylists are going to focus more on blonding or highlights or fashion colors, and some are going to focus on cutting. And if what's really important to you is your haircut, and for fine flat hair like ours, I feel like the haircut is really, really important, because it is going to make a huge difference in how your curls turn out, how your blowouts turn out, how your roller sets turn out, how your heatless curls turn out. Having the right haircut is going to make or break those styles and how much volume you can actually create. So finding someone who can do a great haircut really, really helps. Remember, your stylist and you should have a relationship. You should be able to communicate. They should be able to understand you. They should take into consideration who you are, how you treat your hair at home, how you want your hair to look on a regular basis, what you're willing to do to your hair when you go home, what type of products you want to use. They shouldn't make you feel bad about your hair type. They shouldn't make you feel bad about products that you do or don't use. They shouldn't make you feel like you have to purchase anything to get the hair that you want. They should simply be there to support whatever it is that you want to create with your hair. And that to me is the right kind of stylist to find. Don't be afraid to try different stylists until you find the right one, but also make sure that you keep in mind that if you find a stylist that you do genuinely like, but maybe your haircut's not perfect the first time, don't be afraid to just communicate that the next time that you want to tweak certain things. Give someone a chance to get to know your hair. It can be hard to get to know a new client and how their hair is going to respond and exactly how they're going to feel about their hair once they get it home. So don't necessarily write somebody off if everything's not perfect the first time, but also certainly don't stay with someone where you are completely unhappy. I hope that helps. I hope that gives you a few tips and ideas on how to find yourself a good hairstylist. And let me know in the comments if you have any questions specific to yourself or that I may have missed here, because I can do my best to answer those for you. Thank you so much for watching today. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of my videos, and subscribe because I would love to have you as part of my community here. Bye.